Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. Former Sanikiluaq teacher Johnny Miko was sentenced today to 29 years in jail. He was convicted earlier this year of 14 counts of sex-related charges against his former students. The CBC's Emma Tranter has more, and a warning: details in the story may be disturbing for some people.
Justice Paul Bychuk handed down the sentence in Iqaluit today. The 69-year-old will only serve 22 years because he has already spent 7 years in custody. The charges stem from incidents that happened at Nuiyak Elementary School between 1980 and 2007. The Crown originally asked for 10 to 15 years, minus time Miko has already spent in custody. But Bychuk disagreed with the Crown's submissions and said a harsher sentence is needed. This isn't the first time Miko has faced these charges. He was found guilty of 27 charges back in 2015. But he won an appeal on that conviction and a new trial was ordered. At a sentencing hearing this morning, victims also presented impact statements by video from a boardroom in Sanikiluaq. Many spoke of the harm and the trauma they still live with from Miko's actions. Miko will be eligible for parole in 7 years. Emma Tranter, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Anthony Andre wants his impaired driving convictions overturned. He's the drunk driver behind a 2019 crash in Whitehorse that killed 2 people. Jackie Hong has the details.
In today's appeal hearing, Andre's lawyer argued the trial judge didn't take all the evidence into account. He reiterated a theory raised during Andre's 2021 trial, that a passenger in the car had assaulted Andre, and that assault, not Andre's alcohol intoxication level, had caused the crash. The Crown says the trial judge rightfully concluded there was no basis for that theory. The undisputed facts in the case: Andre was driving on Hamilton Boulevard in the early hours of May 2019. He had twice the legal limit of alcohol in his system and 4 friends in the car with him. His car left the road, and the crash killed 2 of his friends. Another was seriously injured. Andre was found guilty of 3 charges last year, including 2 counts of impaired driving causing death. He was sentenced to 30 months in jail, followed by 2 years probation. 3 judges sat on the panel that heard Andre's appeal today. They say they'll give their decision at a later date. Jackie Hong, CBC News, Whitehorse.
The Kekitani Inuit Association says Baffinland owes it millions of dollars. This comes after QIA presented a report at its annual general meeting earlier this week. Alicia Tunu has that story.
The organization presented financial updates on Tuesday morning to answer some questions from the board of directors. Records showed that Baffinland Iron Mines owed $15 million in consolidated amounts to QIA. Levi Barnabas is the vice president of QIA.
The outstanding amount comes from non-consolidated and consolidated outstanding amounts. It's not only one thing; it's several things that, like water fee or lease, and it's combined with other outstanding that hasn't been paid out by Baffinland, but we're working towards with them to address this matter.
Barnabas said part of the reason for delays was that QIA is short-staffed and could not keep up with financial work.
We're going to have to we have short of staff at QIA, and we need to staff up and then we also probably need to hire. Probably need to contract somebody to catch up, and I'm sure we're going to do that.
But in a statement sent to CBC on Wednesday, it had been determined that the amount due to QIA is now significantly lower. But it is still not clear how much Baffinland owes. Peter Ackman is the vice president of Baffinland. He says they are working with QIA to clear the matter.
We understand the importance of payments made to QIA because we understand that money goes directly to supporting Inuit living in the Kekitani region of Nunavut. We have fulfilled all of our financial requirements set out in all of the agreements that we have with the QIA since 2013, and we'll continue to make these payments.
QIA's board meetings wraps up tomorrow afternoon. Alicia Tuno, CBC News, Iqaluit.
A Polytechnic University on Yellowknife's Tin Can Hill will come with emotional consequences. That's according to the MLA for Great Slave. Katrina Knockleby says her constituents are worried it'll ruin the area. And it turns out Tin Can Hill might not be a prime location after all. Francis Tessé-Burns explains.
Concerns around the proposed site for the Polytechnic University in Yellowknife aren't going away. Possible traffic jams and appropriate housing near Tin Can Hill are two issues that Great Slave MLA Katrina Knockleby says she's heard from residents in her riding.
How do we intend to house students while also ensuring that residents who live in my riding are not pushed out, given the plan calls for 50% of students to find market housing? I worry for my constituents, including many long-term pensioners and low-income families, residents who are already struggling to keep up with our skyrocketing cost of living.
Now, environmental concerns can be added to that list. Whether the project goes ahead will depend on an ongoing environmental assessment.
Right now, they are undertaking a Phase 2 environmental assessment. The Phase 1 assessment showed there is moderate potential for contaminated soil or groundwater.
Pending the results of that assessment, it'll be up to the Polytechnic's Transformation Board to decide whether they want to keep the location. If yes, the minister said Yellowknife residents will once again have their chance to voice their concerns or support to turn Tin Can Hill into the Polytechnic campus. Francis Tessé-Burns, CBC News, Yellowknife.
One NWT MLA is calling for greater involvement of Indigenous governments in emergency responses. Janeway Allen Armstrong put forward a private member's bill pushing the issue on August 28th. It called for an amendment to the Emergency Management Act. It would require the GNWT to coordinate its emergency response activities with affected Indigenous governments. The bill passed second reading and went to committee, and there it stayed. Today, Allen Armstrong offered an update and a demand.
A couple of weeks ago, I received a letter from the Standing Committee on Government Operations. They stated they recognize there are many problems with the Emergency Management Act. They also shared my dismay at the gap in support for some Indigenous evacuees and disruption of essential services for non-evacuated communities. The committee believes Indigenous government needs to be engaged as true partners in emergency management at all stages. I agree. While I am disappointed that committee has decided not to proceed with the bill because they said there is not enough time to study the bill, they indicated this work should be a priority for the 20th Legislative Assembly. I call on all my colleagues in the next Legislative Assembly to support this important work.
There are new details about the cyber attack that hit Yukon government networks last month. They came out at the Yukon Legislative Assembly today. Chris Windier has more on that and other stories from the legislature.
Back in September, the Yukon government was hit by what is known as a distributed denial of service attack. That is when hackers flood a targeted computer network with traffic. Today, Niels Clark, who is the minister responsible for Yukon government IT, told reporters that no ransom was demanded or paid as a result of that attack. Now, Quebec was hit with a similar attack around the same time, and its government has said that Russian hackers were behind it. Clark would not say who he thinks is behind the Yukon attack, only that it remains under investigation. We also heard more today on the Whitehorse Emergency Shelter. Premier Ranj Pillay admitting he should have acted sooner on concerns about safety and noise around the shelter. The Yukon Party is calling for changes to the way the shelter operates. Right now, it is a low barrier shelter. That means people don't have to be sober in order to access services there. And Yukon Party leader Curry Dixon says that needs to change. We also heard a call from the NDP to ban mineral staking inside municipal boundaries. There have been some cases of companies doing mineral exploration near communities, a little too close for comfort for some residents. NDP leader Kate White says the changes should be part of new mining laws that are expected from the Yukon government in the coming months. Chris Windier, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Johnny wanted to go back home. It was 1,000 kilometers away. They forced him to go to the Indian residential school. More than 150,000 of us children had to go. They wanted to change us.
Our Father in heaven,
hallowed be your name.
Hallowed be your name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done.
Thy will be done.
Kill the Indian and the child. It's been called cultural genocide. I survived residential school. My brother Johnny did not.
Chani Wenjack was one of thousands of children who died due to Canada's residential school system. More than 80,000 survivors and their families still live with its legacy today.
Things are too good, just scared that things will be taken away.
Think of the education they will receive.
You're going to see things you never forget.
There is no way that we are going to give up when we are threatened with cultural genocide.
Sometimes it's the beautiful things that hurt the most to remember.
You promise me that you won't look back. You are our tomorrow.
Norman Wells is saving energy and money in its arena with new LED lighting.
We want to give the people in the community that use the arena the best experience that they can have. The application process was flawless, and I would encourage other communities to look into this fund with Arctic Energy Alliance.
The Arctic Energy Alliance has free advice and rebates to help you switch and save. Talk to us today.
I am the best place in the entire world right now.
Oh, I always play with fire.
This is an epic fail.
I'm obsessed with these.
I am utterly speechless.
Keeping secrets, are you?
No, sir. Just like any man.
On the run.
Whatever you're gonna do, you need to do it now.
Hang on, guys. I'm sure you'll get some action. Promise?
We were failed by history.
It's really important that we own our stories.
Every week, the issues that matter to Canadians.
These are acts of desperation.
Connecting politics to people.
Some people have lost everything.
Join me for Rosemary Barton Live.
The federal government announced results from last month's meetings with the heads of major grocery chains to try to find ways to ease food prices. Ashley Burke has that story.
Hi everyone.
After watching grocery prices soar and their poll numbers drop, the Liberals say they've acted.
I can tell you, I've been looking at some flyers this morning, and you already see action in terms of different grocers adjusting ahead, obviously, of Thanksgiving.
Will you lower prices? Will you lower prices?
Last month, the government called the CEOs of Canada's 5 largest grocery stores to Ottawa and gave them an ultimatum. Come up with a plan by Thanksgiving to stabilize food prices or else face taxes.
Every day is a good day to fight for Canadians.
Now the industry minister says initial commitments from the CEOs are coming in.
Starting soon, Canadians will be able to see rollout of actions such as discount across a basket of food products, price freezes, and price matching campaigns, to name a few.
Francois-Philippe Champagne says he's the only one who knows what each grocery store is proposing and won't share the details publicly because they are competitors. Some say that isn't good policy.
We had a government whose poll numbers were getting worse, who are getting significantly hit on the concept of affordability, and came up with, frankly, what feels a bit to me like hand waving to say, look, things are getting better in a time when they're getting better anyway. And so both the grocers and the government will be able to say, look, this is working.
In question period, the Conservatives blame the Liberals for the cost of turkey.
I'm suggesting to Canadians to buy a turkey at $120. I found a butterball for him, Mr. Speaker, $30.
Order.
The picture of the turkey during the Conservative years was a big, plump, beautiful bird, whereas right now it's a skimpy, shrimpy little thing that looks like it's been taxed to death. Mr. Speaker, why won't they get off the back of the turkey so that we can have a nice dinner for Thanksgiving?
This is not a joke, Mr. Speaker. Canadians expect action. That's what we've taken this morning with a 5-item action plan.
It's now up to grocery stores to decide when it will roll out these changes being privately proposed, making it unclear if and when Canadians can see a difference at the grocery store checkout. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
The current strain in housing affordability is regularly met with calls for housing construction. Today, Canada's federal agency released statistics on new building starts, and its conclusion is that what's happening now isn't enough. The CBC's Anis Haydari reports.
New housing construction in Canada is inching up, but not by much. Just 1% higher in the first half of the year. A report from the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation pins most of that on apartment construction in Vancouver and Toronto. And the CMHC says those projects started a while ago.
We're actually having data today that is kind of telling a story that started basically 2 years ago, when projects were being, mulled around, and land need to be developed. Pre-sales of condos had to reach a certain level. Financing was not what it is today, which is harder.
Issues that politicians already recognize.
We've seen, as you've highlighted, the pressures of inflation and supply chain disruptions, the pressures around interest rates has caused real challenges.
The federal government just announced millions of dollars for construction in the GTA, but the latest numbers show big drops in new detached home construction in major cities across the country. Even in Alberta, which is seeing an influx of new residents, construction of most types of homes went down, but that could change.
The financing conditions for rental can be a little bit more favorable right now, especially if you can anticipate, potential rent increases going forward as well. We're certainly seeing a lot more interest on the rental side, given the fact that a lot of new migrants to the province tend to rent.
The CMHC's report says there is still not enough new construction in Canada to address affordability issues over the long term. According to the Federal Housing Agency, there needs to be a big increase in productivity for the construction industry to deal with housing supply across the country. Anis Haydari, CBC News, Calgary.
It's a measure of the impact of current interest rates on household debt. A growing proportion of Canadian mortgages now see monthly payments eaten up entirely by interest. That means no progress towards paying the actual mortgage off. The CBC's Philippe de Montagny has that story.
La balance, le paiement.
Michael Girard-Courtier has a variable rate mortgage for his duplex. Because of his fixed payments, the portion going to interest ballooned. Last month, he only paid $23 towards the principal and more than $1,100 in interest.
I wasn't happy when I saw that. At first, I thought it was actually a mistake.
The time it will take to pay off his mortgage nearly doubled, from 25 to 47 years. He worries another rate hike would push him into what's called negative amortization, a situation where his monthly payment isn't enough to cover all of the interest owed, meaning his mortgage would actually grow month after month.
Instead of paying it off, well, I'm gonna get just in more debt.
This is already the case for about 20% of residential mortgages at three big banks, TD, BMO, and CIBC. These negatively amortizing loans amount to more than $128 billion.
It shouldn't be allowed. I know that most lenders in this situation, what they do is they increase your payment.
The three banks tell CBC News their clients can refinance their loan, pay out a lump sum, or increase their monthly payments, but many can't afford it.
It's an alarming situation considering the times that we're in right now.
Canada's Superintendent of Financial Institutions says $250 billion worth of mortgages have had their amortization period extended beyond 35 years.
I think both banks, financial institutions, and borrowers would be better off if the prevalence of this product was less.
The bank regulator plans to crack down on negatively amortizing loans to rein in the risk faced by lenders and their clients. It plans to update its rules and guidelines later this month. Philippe de Montigny, CBC News, Toronto.
Minor hockey associations across the country are mulling over Hockey Canada's new guidelines. They now ask players to arrive with their game underwear already on and leave that way too. The move is aimed at inclusion. The CBC's Kayla Hounsell looks at some of the reaction so far.
It is Canada's game, but not always, not for everyone. Now a new policy aimed at making hockey more inclusive.
I understand that we can no longer get naked in the dressing rooms. We have to wear a bottom layer.
Hockey Canada's new dressing room policy states that all minor hockey players should wear shorts, t-shirts, or sports bras at all times. Until now, players have had the option of stripping down to change in and out of their gear.
I don't think it affects me in any way, but I have to think about the people around me and how they feel, so.
LGBTQ advocates say it's a significant step forward.
I think the concept of belonging really is a big, huge development factor. We see that, especially with young youth, that they are leaving sports because they aren't feeling comfortable.
The hope is to level the playing field when it comes to gender identity, religious beliefs, and body image concerns. But the policy is intended to help everyone.
We have girls that may want to go into a dressing room with boys, and up to this time, they've had to be in their own room, so they're not really part of the team per se.
The new policy also applies to showering. When using open concept showers like these, athletes are encouraged to use a private bathroom first to change out of their base layer and into swimwear before getting in.
I understand, but at the same time, I think it's a little silly. And I don't know if it's necessarily sanitary to wear a bathing suit in the shower.
Some are concerned about inconvenience. Others point out during the COVID-19 pandemic, players were required to show up fully dressed.
Lots of adaptations, and we rolled with it, and we rose to it.
And advocates say understanding the intent behind this move will lead to even more progress.
Go out, work hard, have fun.
Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Dartmouth.
Northern Canada's first 100% Indigenous-owned wind energy project is now up and running in the Yukon. 4 brand new wind turbines are ready to produce electricity in Whitehorse. The Heckle Hill Wind Project has been years in the making, and it's set to operate at full capacity by Halloween. It's owned and operated by Eagle Hill Energy, part of the Kwanlundun First Nations Development Corporation.
This is a really cool project because this is the Yukon's first wind energy project. This project makes use of the Yukon's consistent and strongest winds in the wintertime. So this project produces the most energy in the winter months when Yukoners need it most. And so you'll see on these turbines we have black blades. So the black blades, and they're also equipped with blade heating. These are technologies designed to reduce the downtime and increase energy production in the winter months to overcome this rime icing challenges.
The turbines were designed in the Netherlands. They'll power around 650 homes for over 20 years once they're fully operational. About 115,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions from the Yukon are expected to be offset by the project. You saw some snow in that story. Winter has hit Whitehorse. People navigated nasty winds, lots of snow, and slippery roads today. It's the beginning.
But I lived here for 40 years and I love the snow.
It is a winter.
Jumped a little bit early in there, all good. It's the beginning of a long, cold season to come. Some people are absolutely pumped and they cannot wait for more. Rafsan Farouk Jugal has that story.
But I lived here for 40 years and I love the snow.
It is a winter wonderland here in Whitehorse as the first snowfall of the season rolls in. 5 centimeters is expected when it's all over. And there's some pretty strong winds blowing with the white stuff.
It's not that really cold, but the wind make it like chilly.
While some may not fully enjoy all that winter brings, others cannot wait for winters to set in.
Get used to it, enjoy it. It's wonderful. You live in the north. And you live in the north, Yukon.
Work has been underway all day today to keep the streets and sidewalks safe.
So this morning when the snow fell, crews had already started getting out onto the roads and hitting the roads with some sand and salt mixture.
And crews are working in teams to do the best they can.
We grab a bunch of laborers from our construction sites and head downtown and go hit up the sidewalks. So.
And they have some advice.
Slow down and be prepared for winter. Have your winter tires on.
As we head into the night, the snow is expected to turn into freezing rain. Now, the city of Whitehorse is advising drivers who haven't changed their tires to winter tires to change them to be wary of stopping and starting distances when they're driving their vehicles. Make sure their car is clear of any snow for maximum visibility, and be aware of other pedestrians and other drivers on the road when they're driving. Rafsan Farag-Jugo, CBC News, Whitehorse.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, you can always go to our website, cbc.ca/north. We leave you with a look at the weather. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
Driving impaired destroys lives. A message from Mad Canada.
Keeping secrets, are you? No, sir. Just like any man. Starting new. On the run.
Whatever you're gonna do, you need to do it now.
Hang on, guys. I'm sure you'll get some action.
Promise?
Putting on that apron brings me to tears. Hey!
This is an epic fail.
Where are the pecans? I don't see the pecans. The stones. The beetles.
I detest.
What?
We were failed by history. Look where we are, under that legacy.
It's really important that we own our stories.
Just remain calm. Grab the head.
You grab the head. Have you ever dealt with something like this before?
No.
It's on me now. Animal Control. Watch all episodes now.
It was awesome. It was great. I loved it.
Yeah, good show.
With the comedy in, with the history.
He was really funny.
Nailed it. It was great.
Still Standing. Watch free on CBC Gem. When it comes to protecting the world's cuddliest creatures, little love muffin, you need Animal Control. Watch all episodes now.